Hello, it's time for the visit with the person of high strangeness. Today we're going to do the second one of the prison shows that we had discussed. You had last week we talked about some Washington State issues and touched on a few things. In the meantime, I like to caution you again, if this subject bothers you, then please make the proper arrangements and get your cognac. And we hope you stay and have a good belch while you're listening to today's show. If I could get you to imagine something for a minute, just close your eyes for just a minute and imagine that you hear hoofs. And then think about hoofs. Normally when we hear hoofs, we think horse. And then when you open your eyes, you will actually see a zebra. And the point of that little story is that just because it sounds like hoofs doesn't mean it has to be a horse. It can be a zebra. It could be a jackass for all matters. And so therefore, I'd like to invite you along today on this journey that we're going to take about some human rights issues that almost come, well, actually come into the Amnesty International type categories because some of them are drastic. Now, I like to say something about the opening shot. Excuse me. I still have that obstruction cough here. The opening shot was Joseph Shabalala from Black Ladysmith, Mombasa, and he's actually singing, but his emotions show a person in pain, and at that time Joseph was in pain because the police had just shot his brother, accidentally I might add, and the reason they shot the brother is to keep some American singers, mainly, total blank, out of South Africa to sing with the musicians there. Paul Simon, sorry, just total blank here. And so of course he was hurt when he saw that how the government in apartheid at that time manipulated the people, the circumstances, and the legal system. And we as Americans, we actually had an embargo, and some of us honored them. Others, we raised money to get Mr. Mandela out of prison. And if you remember, he was a prisoner for 27 years, and he came out of the system and became the president and freed things from some of these horrible things that had happened to people in South Africa. So to share some of the stories with me, again, I'd like for you to welcome and say hi to Fred Markham. That was, hi Fred.
Hi.
He was nice enough to come and visit with us again today. And the weather improved.
Pardon?
The weather improved, and
yes,
you brought the sunshine with you today.
Yeah, the sunshine.
The sunshine, yeah. We had several calls on the for the last show that we did, and we applaud you for being able to come back and tackle some more issues with us here. Movies. There are several movies on the market. One is called Cry Freedom. It deals with apartheid. Another one is a musical by Hugh Masekela called Sarafina, and they deal with the facts, what happens when you are dragged out of your bed, put in prison and beat half to death. And that's what we're used to seeing. And you are the, you work with a paper called the Prison News?
Prison Legal News, yes.
If you like to refresh our memory, where it's located, where it's going, and what the purpose is.
Well, right now we're located in Monroe, Washington, which is very close to the prison that it was originally conceived in by two prisoners, Paul Wright and Ed Mead. Paul is still in prison and still acting as our writer, as our editor. Ed Mead has gone on to other prison activist issues in the San Francisco area. The paper started almost 11 years ago. We're into volume number 12. Our production has increased from a couple of dozen copies a year, a month, up to where we're presently putting out 3,500 copies to various prisoners and interested people around the United States. About 60% of our subscriber readership is prisoners, and the rest are divided between law libraries, lawyers and whatnot, and just other concerned individuals. Usually family of prisoners are people that are interested in the prison issues of America today. But as a side note, the prisoner subscribers, we know for a fact that every issue that goes to prison is read by anywhere from 20 to 100 prisoners. So our readership is a lot higher.
A lot higher. I know. I was talking to an inmate the other day, and he said he was number 31 on the reading list for your...
Yeah, and it happens that way. And one of the worst things you can do in prison is to carry off the copy of Prison Legal News and not bring it back. It's a good way to get beat up.
There you go. There's one way you're going to be in pain. Yeah. We were somewhat South Africa, where we as an American people actually went in. We could have started a war over human rights issues, and where they have stun-gunned people, lack of medical treatment. They've taken children and beat them to death and claimed they have committed suicide. So, have you ever heard any stories about the South African apartheid?
Yes, lots and lots of stories about it.
Yeah.
And it's South Africa's apartheid period is beginning to sound more and more like where America's going.
That's where I'm going. I was going to ask you. Think you said
Not a hard
South
association.
Africa. I was going to confuse them. Yeah, I was going to confuse them. I was going to make a detour and go to Auschwitz for a minute here.
Yeah.
But you get the point of what we're trying to say to you here. And since you blew it, the whistle here, and we are now in America, let's go to America.
Okay.
Now, all articles in here, they are verified, I assume?
We can't say that they're verified. Most of them are written from news media and from actual experience of prisoners in prison. Much of the content of the paper is written by prisoners. And we verify as deeply as we can with other sources of information. We generally find that what little comes into the news media, to the big media, pretty much verifies the stuff that's coming out of the prisoners' mouths themselves. So I would say yes, it's verified. And a great deal, most of the content of our paper deals with the final issues in court litigation.
That's where I'm going.
And our essence is to report the finished and positive aspects of court litigation that's in favor of prisoners. We try not to report any more of the negative than we have to, but sometimes we have to report cases that were lost as examples of what not to do.
But it's not hearsay.
No, it's not hearsay. I would say that less than 100% of what actually goes in the paper is unverifiable, and it's probably the truth.
That's right. We got a few examples here for you. Are you familiar with the disabled prisoner that, and I want to remind you here, the reason we use the term prisoner is instead of something else is because that's what we decided last time.
Many years ago, the editors and creators of Prison Legal News determined that prisoner is a common word, and no matter what the state calls a person in that situation, whether it's resident, inmate, or whatever, they're still a prisoner. And it doesn't make any difference where they're at. They can be in an insane asylum, they can be in a drug rehab program, they can be on parole, they can be on probation, they can be in the depths of one of the worst prisons in the United States, and they all share the same common ground. They are a prisoner.
Right. So that's why we're going to call everybody prisoners here. Anyway, there's a story, and I had heard that in other circles. The gentleman went to, actually, and that happened in the Cowley County Jail in Kansas. Gentleman had no legs. Are you familiar with the story?
I read the basic stuff that we got from a dozen, and this is a condensated story. It comes from news media, it comes from prisoner reports, it comes from lawyers that looked into the situation. And yeah, it's what happened.
But he got arrested, he went to jail, and they refused to give him a wheelchair. So this poor person had to drag himself across
Drug himself around on the floor by his hands.
Yeah.
You've seen years ago in America, you saw street people that didn't have, with the little scooters under their legs. This guy didn't even have a scooter.
Didn't even have a scooter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he wasn't a murderer or some of the crimes that we would execute you for, and we're going to talk about the death penalty in a little bit. It doesn't really say what he was in.
I believe he was in on a minor crime that probably would have not put, if he had had any money, he would have never been put in jail.
We didn't mention that the last time, so we're going to mention it now in case we run out of time. Don't ever go to jail if you're broke, because you can't afford to go to jail.
Yeah. Among old crooks from, all of the years long ago that I was in prison and talked to the people that had been there long before me, the number one rule is always pay your lawyer first. But if you don't know you're going to be arrested and have no reason to be arrested, it's hard to be that way. So there's getting to be more and more people that are normally in poverty going sent to prison for sillier and sillier reasons simply because they don't have any money to defend themselves.
Yeah, and if you do have it, it's all taken away from you, it's confiscated.
Yeah.
Back to South Africa, they would blow up the village. We're a little more civilized here, and we just blow it up on paper and put it in the archives and change jurisdiction so you can't get it back.
In America today, we have a situation similar to South Africa.
Exactly.
When the START movement in Philadelphia blew up the block. They bombed a citizens' block of the city in Philadelphia to eliminate the START people who were holed up in that block. This is history of America today.
I don't
it's in
know
the books.
that, but thank you for sharing that.
I have actually talked to one of the survivors of it, who goes around the country speaking. And most people that she talks to don't realize that the city of Philadelphia bombed that block to drive those people out of there.
So that imaginary zebra story wasn't far-fetched, was it?
Yeah, the helicopter you hear over your head may be going to drop a bomb on you. And this is America.
Yeah, it is. One of the other violation, not so happy things here is where they actually had in 1999 they turned the water off to 700 inmates. They took them to the bathroom once every 8 hours.
This is not an uncommon thing in prison. It's not the most common thing. They don't do it in every prison every day, but it's more and more common in more and more places. I know of a prison recently that had the local community had a water problem, so they turned off the water in the prison to stop that consumption. And they turned the water on for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening so that you could flush the toilet because the guards couldn't stand the smell.
Did you turn it off to the animal shelter?
Probably not. And we have an instance in Arizona where the sheriff Arpaio...
It's one of my favorite stories. We have told it here before.
Yeah.
That's right. It was in the spotlight.
Treats the animals. And this was in America mainstream media. He treated the animals better than he did the prisoners. And still does, by the way.
To refresh your memory, what he did is, I forgot his name, but he's very
Arpaio.
famous because upstanding citizens love him because he's fixing everybody. It was hot, in excess of 100 degrees, so he moved the dogs to the air-conditioned places and the prisoners to the tents because it was too hot for the dogs. Then he'd spend 65 cents per day on the prisoners, and $1.23 on the dogs. Now, how do you justify that?
Well,
and I love animals. I'm not out to defend animal rights activists, but
Arpaio's a madman. I mean, he's probably clinically insane if you were to judge him on the basis of a non-sheriff type person doing those kinds of things. They would lock him up. But because he's the high sheriff, they applaud him.
We indict people as war criminals in other countries, and here again we lose our lives fighting people, starting wars. So, what are we going to do? What do we need to tell the viewers here?
Well, the people that pay the taxes in America today need to take a hand in the oversight of police departments, of prosecutors' offices, of prisons. These aren't things that you have to go to the polls and vote on. You can scream loud enough at the people that you do vote on to make them do something about these insane manifestations of some people, of violating their own laws.
We have to educate the juries. That's one of the basic
Well,
things
if you
that
bring
we're trying
juries,
to do.
if you have a jury instead of a prosecutor
Yeah.
being the focus and the power in a courtroom, you wouldn't have the problems that you have today.
We've on previous shows we've talked about mandatory sentencing, and that is usually for non-violent crimes. And Tom Stahl made an interesting comment. He said, well, you know, if you, because of the slave labor, back to the slave labor in America here, you know, if you had a lot of unruly, violent prisoners, you couldn't get the job done. So therefore, you employ and re-employ non-violent criminals.
Right.
And then we talked about how...
What they're doing in America is the prisoners that go to prison that have a tendency to be disruptive are locked up in maximum security housing situations where they can't move at all. And the passive prisoners now have a focus on, I don't want to go there, so I'm going to continue being passive and work my butt off all day long for free for the man so he can make a profit. But they're holding these other people over their heads, essentially. And it's easy to do because they with no hope at all, you can be kind of violent and disruptive because there's just nothing they can do with you if you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison anyway.
One of the other things that had been brought to my attention was, and you told me you could sort of detail it a little better for me. There was a case in Texas, some kind of way the tape got taken out and given to the main media.
There are a large number of Missouri prisoners had been farmed out to a Texas private prison, and the prison beat up a number of the Missouri prisoners and taped them as training tapes on how to handle disruptive prisoners. I understand from people I know inside that the prison guards caused the disruption, not the prisoners, and that was just an excuse to beat them up. But unfortunately, their egos got out of hand, and they allowed this tape to get into the public hands, and I think actually sent a copy of it to Missouri at some point in time.
It did.
And the Missouri, upon seeing the treatment of their people, took their people back to Missouri and sued Texas for the horrible violence they had inflicted on these people for no reason.
Now, as coincidence has it, I spent time with one of the gentlemen at the actual one that they showed with the stunt guns and the kicking and the things. I managed to spend some time with his sister, and she told me that he was an epileptic. So he was not unruly, but he had no business going in that environment anyway because they refused medication to him.
Well, that's what I say. The guards caused the problem. They knew he was epileptic. It was in his medical records.
Now, there's a real problem with the doctors here. Let's talk about the doctors.
Well, there are two levels on the doctors in prison. Some doctors in prison, I would say probably a majority, are folks that are in this country from other countries. They need a job. They can't get fully certified, so they go to work for the Department of Corrections. Some of them are good. One of them saved my life once. I can't say anything about him. He was a Polish person, and had it not been for him, I would have been dead in a prison incident. But the other side of it is that a lot of disenfranchised doctors from this country are employed by the Department of Corrections, and those are not good doctors. And they cause problems. They're lazy people, or they'd be working on the outside and making all the money that doctors make. They can't do that. They have a doctor's license to practice in some cases, and so the Department of Corrections employs them as a kind of a job of last resort, and they malpractice in prison, so you have lots and lots of problems.
Well, okay, let's go from malpractice to deliberate experiments.
Well, it's been a long-standing thing, and Prison Legal News has had unending numbers of stories about it, most of them written by Hans Scherer, who's an authority in the field. They've been experimenting on prisoners in America since there were prisons in America, from the very beginning. They're still doing it today. They don't always tell them they're being
That's
experimented
right.
on. And during my time in prison, I saw situations where you could volunteer or be paid, $5 a visit to go have something injected in you and you didn't know what it was, to see how you reacted, and sometimes they'd even isolate those people. In one prison in Texas, they set the gym up as an isolation area for 3 or 4 months while they gave these people some kind of medication to see how they reacted to it. The prisoner had no idea he was getting a few dollars. He had no other way of getting any dollars, so he went for it, and some of them suffered reoccurring situations and bouts of different panic and things for years afterwards. So yes, they do it in America today. They're not supposed to, but they do it.
No, these are rumors, and my rumors are usually very reliable. They now, instead of labeling some of the this isn't the federal, instead of labeling the medicine bottles, they now number them. And so here, you are a diabetic person or whatever. And the reason I keep making reference to diabetic is because I have a person in the federal system that is a diabetic. And there are actually 42 pages of court rulings under the Disability Act, how to take care of that. Well, of course they don't. So people go into diabetic shock. They lose their eyesight. Their eyes are unchecked. They're not properly fed. There was a lockdown in Florence, Colorado 2 years ago. I happened to be in the area at that time. They locked everybody down for 19 days. All they got was sandwiches. And so I asked one, warehousing, they call it, in that area. And I said, well, what's going on here? Why is everybody in lockdown? This was men and women alike. There's 8 prisons there. And they said, oh, well, they just, they wanted to make some, change some things around. There was no emergency. People died.
This is not an unnormal situation.
For America, no.
No, I'm sorry. This is normal American prison action, and the public outside doesn't know it happening. And if the media goes to the prison and says, hey, we heard a rumor about this, they just deny it. And the media says, oh, okay, great.
That's it.
It didn't happen then.
There was another incident. I didn't know about that one, but I read it in your publication. A gentleman, very minor, he got himself arrested. And he was a diabetic, and he notified them.
Nothing unusual about that.
And
they didn't give him the medication. He reacted poorly, so they beat him up.
They beat him up?
Certainly.
They hog-tied him.
Yeah, and they killed him in doing that.
And they killed him.
Yeah.
And the autopsy report said that he choked on his vomit, and he took him a very long time to die.
Yes. So the guards that were supervising this incident were probably taking bets on how long it took him to die.
Yeah.
I don't know that to be a fact, but it's a high probability.
But there's many people that know me. They know I'm a compassionate person. They know I'm a loving person. And they also know that I wouldn't talk about these things unless it was just that important. My job is to make you think. And when I've done that, then I'm not responsible for what you do with that information. But I would sit here and not feel good about myself if I didn't bring this to the forefront, because how do I live with that?
It's difficult to do, and it's getting worse. One of the things that's happening in American prisons today is a privatization of many elements of prison. The feeding, and in this particular instance, the medical care, and the medical providers that are getting these contracts, of course, are in it for the profit. Well, if the state could have serviced this function at a less of a cost before, or more of a cost before the medical people took it over, you know that these medical contractors are going to do it for much less and give less service. So one of the stories recently and in the December issue was dying for profits. And speaking about CMS, one of those corporations that does it, and how they're going in and causing people's prisoners' deaths by cutting costs in medical care, ignoring doctors' orders, just endless problems, lawsuits that the American public is then paying for, And to stop the lawsuits, of course, what the prisons are doing is taking away the law libraries, so the prisoners can't go to court.
Chain reaction here now. I know some of the people are in, some of the friends, they'll say, well, yeah, but we have senior citizens that don't have HMOs, they don't have medical care. And I understand that. That's another wrong, but that's a different show.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the prisoners here.
Yeah, that's a problem of politics.
We did a show on the homeless, and a young woman named Ezekiel was here, and she read a passage from a book. It was called The Little Prince, and I had never heard. It was her favorite story, and the part of the story she read was how when you tame something, how you now become responsible for it. And I think that's where we want to go with that is, if a person's out there on their own, they're liable for themselves. But when you take a person, put them in a cage, and
You're responsible for their welfare.
then you're responsible
In
for
America,
their
they
welfare.
should be farther than that. If you're going to lock somebody up and take them away from society, especially for minor crimes and nonviolent crimes, like the massive problems we're having with the mandatory minimums over drugs, and drugs are no worse than alcohol. May I say, even no worse than smoking cigarettes. For the most part, the drug war has made the problem rather than help the problem. So you take those people and you lock them up, and you take everything they own, and then in some period of time, 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road, you release them again with nothing. With nothing. What do you expect those people to do?
Bingo.
If you haven't done anything while they were in prison to either stop the problem they were having, decrease their poverty, which is most of the reason that people go to prison, then you're not solving any problem. You're just warehousing people for a period of time.
That's actually the word that they used up in Florence. They were
Well, this is a common word all over the country. And then, of course, we can bring in the other element that we discussed last week of then taking those people and using them as slave labor, which is coming on, too, more and more and more in America. So you have to, when you take the responsibility by locking somebody up, you have to feed them, you have to give them medical care, and if you've got any sense at all, you prepare them for return to the outside. And obviously, the prison system of America does none of the above.
Now, I understand that the women, we're not in a position to talk about the women's penitentiaries, but...
Actually, I am.
You are? Okay, well...
I have a very good friend who recently got out of women's prison right here in Washington State, and we have been keeping closer and closer track of women's issues all over the United States.
I know who that is. You have the floor. Would you be nice enough to share some of those issues?
Women's prisons probably are worse than men's prisons. Women essentially used to do much less time, and there were much less inclined to be given any amount of time by courts. That's changing. The fastest growing segment in America today are poverty, youth, and women. Sometimes there's a crossover there. Women's prisons are growing at a faster rate than men's prisons are. And the women have a different situation in prison than men do. Women tend to be friendlier with each other than men are. In a women's prison, if you're friendly with another woman, you can be locked up on a sexual charge.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. Even if you're just, I know a prison in Texas. I used to write to a woman in a prison in Gatesville unit, Texas, who was put in the hole regularly because she had a friend, non-sexual, who she spoke to occasionally, and every time they would catch them talking, they would lock both of them up on a sex charge. The people that run prisons, especially women's prisons, are so psychotic about the possibility of a woman having a feeling toward another woman that they lock them up on sex-based charges for no reason at all. And that happens in this state. Washington State has a very deep problem with that.
Define being put in the hole, please, for the friends that don't know what that is.
The hole, the worst word I've ever heard it called was in Texas when they called it the shitter. Because there was a hole in the floor and a square box, 3 foot wide, 6 foot long, 8 foot high, and you were locked in it, had a steel door on the front, and you could stay there anywhere from a few days to 3 or 4 months. They would come in once a week with a high-pressure hose and wash you down. You had no clothing. You had one ragged blanket, and it got cold in the winter.
Yeah.
And that's the old hole. Now the modern, the hole now,
Let's talk about the new hole now. Let's see.
the solitary units now in
Yeah.
prison today, they call them segregation. They call them a lot of other things. They're just an isolated cell where you have no contact with other humans.
Yeah.
The guard that comes to the door and sticks your food through a hole in the door or under the door, if there's a hole under the door, will not communicate with you.
Yeah, now they have the maximum security prison, the Supermax in Colorado. I've talked about that with some of the friends and some of the locals. We did interviews with that, and some of them, I mean, they have no human contact of
Forever.
no sort forever.
Forever.
And they take them out. These people are actually cemented into the ground. I've been there. And then, you know, when they take them out, they just take into a different compartment of cement and artificial lights, and here they are. And in fact, I know a gentleman, a friend, that he was there for 4 years because allegedly he belonged to a gang. And so, but he survived. Can you imagine what it takes to survive that?
What you have to do to survive an isolation system like that is to go inside your own head.
But they teach some kind of way. They have a parapsychology class. I don't know how they ended up with a parapsychology class in a Supermax.
That's odd. That. Somebody had to have volunteered and come in to do this and caused enough of a fuss that they actually got to do it. That's very unusual. Most of the time in the Supermax prisons, which are another one of the very fast-growing prison segments in America today, you're isolated in a cell and you do nothing. You sit in the block of concrete or the block of steel, and you stay there essentially for the rest of your life, because many people that go in there don't have the ability to go inside their own mind and survive. They go insane.
Now, when the soldiers go into war, they, I don't know that, but I would assume that they are being taught some kind of technique to overcome that in case they get captured.
Well, I think that they've made attempts at that at various times, but I don't think they've been very successful at it. The brainwashing process, the anti-brainwashing, the Vietnam War proved that it was not very successful.
But actually, the point I was making, if we teach our soldiers how to survive that type of brutality inflicted by other people, other than ourselves here. Do you remember the beginning of the show?
Well, you have an enemy. You have an enemy. You can focus against an enemy better than you can in prison against the guards.
But what do we focus on here? Circumstances? If we can put the blame on anything, what do we blame? Is there such thing as blame here?
Society.
Society.
Yes, society not caring.
When I first came to the United States, to me it was a land of freedom, and I always knew I was going to come here. And actually, I'm a very good American. I probably know more about the Constitution than a normal person, but you know, the saying, you know, you did the crime, you do the time. And that was my mentality. And then, of course, something happened and just knocked my foundation out from under me. And I realized that people in prison that didn't do anything.
Yes.
They're victims of circumstances. And then everything changes. So what do we say to the people that don't believe us that tomorrow they can be in that same
it's hard to make a person believe in a negative. When they know about it, when they have a friend that goes under the system, if they read enough, maybe they'll begin to believe. Maybe they watch this program enough, they will begin to believe that the American criminal justice system emphasizes criminal instead of justice. Now
you said, let's see, what is the word that you use? Negative. Being educated about things like that, would you consider that negative?
Well, you're educating somebody to believe the opposite of what the government and their schooling and their religion and everything has always told them about America. America the good, we only lock up the bad guys. So if you're trying now to tell them that some of the people getting locked up aren't bad guys.
Yeah, well, you see, opposite is actually a better word than a lot of people associate negative with evil.
Yeah, well, that's
And
true
I
too.
didn't want to do the evil thing. I wanted to.
I guess it's my language format. To me,
Yeah,
anything
that's why we clarified
yeah,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's something unknown to us.
Yeah, and it's something that everybody in America is educated against. I went through the same education everybody else did. The difference was is I didn't believe a lot of it. I didn't believe the police were all good. It was there's a lot of good people in law enforcement. There's a lot of good prosecutors. There's a lot of good judges. There's a lot of bad ones, and there's no control over those. So the common person in America today, the everyday wage earner, needs to start focusing on the problems within. The media picks up stories all the time. You hear about the police beating somebody up, shooting a guy that pulls his wallet out. These are real problems in society. They're greater problems than the drug war.
Yeah, yeah, I really agree.
Right now, police departments are essentially educating police officers to be cruel and unusual people. And they're being protected by the law. A police officer, a prison guard, essentially is protected by the law. He can do no wrong as long as he does it at work.
If somebody said to you today, would you like to be a police officer by this afternoon, what would you do?
I would absolutely refuse, because I know what police officers are now in America today. And like I said, they're not all bad, but there's too many bad ones, and there's no control over the bad ones.
Yeah. But that's one of the other things, when like some of the rappers, they sing about the life that they're familiar with, the things that they know. And then even though I'm not all that familiar with rap, but the whole thing is when you sing about your environment and what you know, so you're not really promoting hatred or anger towards one certain group of people. And I think rappers are sort of like what we're doing right now. We're just putting it out there, and you take from it what you need and turn that zebra back into a horse if you so choose.
Yeah, I guess. I don't like the rhythms of rap music, so I don't listen to it.
I'm not real familiar with it either, but politicians made a big deal out of what the rappers are talking
Well,
about.
politicians tend to make a big deal out of anything
Out
they think
everything.
they can get focus and more money in their pocket.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What a politician says doesn't usually have a whole lot to do with reality. It's what will get him another vote and another dollar in his pocket.
Now, you had a beautiful writing, and do you think we could tackle that?
I don't think we've got time to read the whole thing.
We do. It's very important.
Well, this was written by an anonymous person who I know quite a few years ago, and I helped edit it and clean up his inability to spell well. It's titled "I Am the Prison," and it's the story of prison from the aspect of the prison itself, not the people.
The building.
The building.
Yeah,
It's the building talking to you. It says, "I am society's collector of debts, and my purse is the bottomless maw of man, insatiable, storing the payments of days, implacably totaling the months and the years. I am the abode of hope become hopeless, of routine so deadly, the simple act of mere living becomes a weary, numbing task. I hold within me men who cling to life when even hope is futile, men who walk along my stone-walled corridors in silent resignation, in passive waiting. I hold some who have long been forgotten by a world callously indifferent, and they face no future but that of a grave, starkly numbered in a barren cemetery. I hold within me the confused, the misguided, the rebel, the lost, and the unlucky, the depraved, the diverted, the liar, the cheat, the murderer. Those two are mine. I hold within my unfeeling walls and bars the flawed, the inoperable, the unfinished, the malformed works of an imperfect civilization. I hold within me men who not long ago knew peace and freedom, the keenly biting edge and freshness of winter night, the welcome laugh of a child, men who know only the rendering pain now of utter desolation. I engage not only the tired old men, but sadly the tired young men. The blindfolded eyes of justice were truly unseeing. Come, come and look upon the faces of those I hold, and those therein the reflection of my image engraven as deep and final proof of society's inadequacy, of man's inhumanity. I am the prison, and I am the bitterness in the hearts of many who became mine only because they stood alone and were poor. I am the contempt of all who have learned with the disillusioned knowledge of experience that law, justice are not always noble and just, but are oftentimes purchasable commodities. I am the eroded cynicism of the many who have heard those presuming to infallibility as they pass judgments upon them, the fallible. I am more formidable even than my stone walls and steel bars and lethal gun towers, for not only do I confine, I slowly and irrevocably destroy the souls that I hold within me. I am loneliness and I am heartache, and my teeth sink into the souls of men. I am the bleak emptiness wherein feeling is a sickness, bone deep, anxiety swells and thrusts, uncertainty constricts and stifles. I am the memory that comes violently in the night, like the tearing scream of a trumpet sounding forth from the grim orchestra of frustration, futility, despair, and crushingly impenetrable indifference. I am the repository of infinite abortive dreams and of numbless human failures, the holder of countless stories never told nor lived. Yes, I am the liberal prison, and never can my viciousness be truly portrayed. I know it. It must be felt. It must be endured, always. I am cold and harsh and merciless, for I am the intolerant conscience of a Janus-faced society. At times I am vibrant with contempt for the lost and groping mass stirring aimlessly within me. Then I see one head uplifted, and in that single face raising to the free and open sky, I exposed the very soul of man. Then it is, I know, 'tis I who should not exist. I am the faces in the visiting room, their every word and action reflect my brooding watchfulness. I am the truly stretched face of that man in prison irons, remembering the past warmth of love and tenderness. I am the gut feeling of anguish destroying the man who waits daily with desperate hopes for letters that never come, the visits that never appear. I am the deeply etched faces of those that wait and wait and wait, their only sustenance that of heartbreak, disappointment, and vain regret. Yes, I am the prison, wherein the smothering confines of steel-barred cage inexorably crushes with the weight of its inhuman reality, wherein the endless emptiness of the days and shattered loneliness of the eternal nights repeat, repeat, and repeat my message.
Okay.
And that, unfortunately, is the truth and reality of prison in America today, not South Africa.
I know it took a lot for you to do this. And the gentleman that they projected next to you and behind you, the man that is singing a song, that's the young man I was talking about that was in that Supermax for years at the time. And he was a very good friend of Dr. Shakur, Tupac Shakur's father. And thank you. INS detainees?
Right now in America today, it's the bottom of the pit.
Yeah.
They have no element of relief. There is no end to their existence. They have no sentences. They have no hearing. They have no lawyers. They have no justice.
They have nothing. Some of these people have been in these little boxes since Mariella boat left 20-some years ago. So if anybody is there and would really like to take on writing to an INS detainee, any person about an INS detainee, because they can put ads in the papers, please look into your heart and and extend yourself. Some of them have done nothing other than just wanted to come to America, and that was the only crime.
Come to America, be free, and spend the rest of your life in an INS detention center.
If for any reason...
Unless you're rich.
Well, yeah, but that's another story. So if, let's say, if you came here and you did have a crime, you serve your time, and then INS stands for Immigration and Naturalization Services.
They've just started putting them in special places. They used to put them in general population in prisons.
No, they have
that was causing a problem. Now they're putting them in special places.
Special camps now.
So nobody can see them.
Right. Some of the pictures that we showed here today, the old man with the dreamy eyes, he's an INS detainee. He don't know if he'll ever get out. He can't go home.
And the reason they're keeping them where they're at the way they are is that eventually they will all die and then the problem will go away.
But the taxpayer, this is the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, the taxpayer is paying out the nose.
Pay for it, so, right, do something.
But the taxpayers of America pay for a lot of things that they shouldn't be paying for.
Yeah.
No, they're evaporating half of a country in South America. They're destroying all of the crops because I guess it's competition for where the CIA gets their dope.
Okay, haven't said all that. Death penalty. Let's go to the next thing. Anything is changing?
Right now in America, there's a small surge of interest in the death penalty because of the DNA problem, and then the activism of the Illinois governor who stopped all death penalties in his state until it could be investigated and find out what's wrong with the system. And they have just passed some new rules in that state, making it essentially damn near impossible to put anybody on death row unless they just want to go there.
I come from a cruel country. If you steal, they cut your hand off. If you kill somebody, they execute you that day, you see. Yeah. And so that really leaves no room for
justice.
For it's justice. It's just very cruel. So I can appreciate the, having a hearing and having to get a lawyer and things like that.
It would be great. It would be great in this country. Due process would be a wonderful process. The American justice system would be a wonderful process. It was written to be a wonderful process. The problem is it's acted on by insane people that call themselves prosecutors.
Yeah.
Not all of them. I can never say all of them. There are probably some that do well.
I've met some
that are bad.
People in that area that it really troubles them the way they have to proceed against some of these things. And
I've talked to judges that absolutely refused to sentence people under the Mandatory Minimums Act.
Yeah, but see what happens to them.
They don't do those cases anymore. They give them to somebody else that will.
Mrs. Jacobs, what's her name? The lady that was on death row, she survived death row, wonderful speaker. She's touring the country right now.
Yeah.
Susan Jacobs?
Sunny
Jacobs.
Yeah.
Lady and her husband was in some, their car broke down from what I understand and got hung up in some things.
There's real high doubt that they were guilty of anything.
No. But they, like we said the last time, they just happened to be in the wrong place.
Yeah.
If that's the same person, in fact, I don't want to misquote her, but that's the way the story was told to me. They caught a ride, their car broke down, they caught a ride with somebody. Either something happened or had happened prior to this. Everybody got arrested. They tried to explain that they wasn't part of this. They just happened to catch a ride because of their car trouble. They all got convicted. Her husband, actually, he did get executed. And then she said after so many years, she, instead of fighting it, she was trying to find some sanity and a purpose in this. And eventually she did. Get off a death row, was released, and is doing great things to educate people about the oopses that we really can't.
Yeah, and there should be no oopses in a system that kills you. And unfortunately, they're finding more and more of them. Yeah. Just a few days ago, they declared that somebody that had been killed in Texas was not guilty. DNA proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was not guilty. George Bush said there's never been an innocent man killed in Texas, but we all know he's a liar, so that's not hard to discuss.
Ex-governor of Virginia said, well, yeah, took him off for death row, but he signed a paper. He was innocent, but they locked him up for the rest of his life anyway. Actually, I know a person that got accused of being a murderer. And 7 years in his sentence, they found the person came forward, and he was also convicted for the same crime. This man is still in prison 17 years later without parole. They just sent him to Beaumont, Texas. Why can't you let this person out?
Well, because once you're in the system, no prosecutor will ever, ever admit he was wrong. Ever. Even if he's been dead for years, the prosecutorial system won't admit that they made a mistake. They never admit they made a mistake. I know a real interesting incidence of this kind of thing. A black youngster who worked in the commissary that I worked in a Texas prison constantly disclaimed that he had raped a girl that he was doing a life sentence for. 14 years into his sentence, one day, suddenly, a deputy sheriff showed up at the window of the commissary wanting to talk to him. We called him Smokey. The deputy came in with the commissary officer's permission and told him, "I'm going to be the sheriff in 2 months. I've won the election. As soon as I'm sheriff, you're out of here, because I know you didn't do it. I know who did."
Wonderful.
He was released 2 months later. They didn't pay him for the 14 years he did in prison.
Oh, no.
They didn't give him anything for what he was in. They didn't even get an apology.
Yeah.
The state of Texas paroled him on this new sheriff's word that he was an innocent man. They paroled him. That means he was still a prisoner.
It was still a prisoner, yeah. And then
Of course, the sheriff made sure nothing ever happened to him.
Right.
I think he got him a job doing something. He was totally uneducated, and very, very poor. But he had learned to read and write in prison. He went around in the commissary and learned to write by spelling words out underneath the labels on the boxes.
Yeah.
And we helped him when we could.
Which brings us to another thing now. When you come out of the penitentiaries, you have no rights. You just might as well not have a voice at all. But some people are trying to change that, because I read in your thing here that there's only 3 crimes by Constitution. There's only 3 crimes that disqualify you from voting, and one is treason, and one was, oh gee, if I could just remember that.
But the reality, no matter what those are, the reality is that with some small exceptions, Washington State gives you civil rights back to vote in local elections.
Oh, they do.
After you're released from your last whatever. If you have community corrections or anything like that, you can't get it until you're released from all stigma of your sentence. They give you, but you still can't vote in federal elections. In most states in the United States,
Can do anything.
if you've ever been convicted of a felony, you're not supposed to ever vote again.
Yeah, and so people have no voice, and then of course they're kind of dumb anyway, because now you're out and you would have a voice to speak up and correct things that happened to you prior.
Well, certainly, you take the vote away from the poor people by simply not letting them get to the polls, or the way they did it in Florida. And one of the things they did in Florida, by the way, was to get a list of all the felons in Florida, which was wrong. Like, I think half of them or 2/3 of them were never convicted of a felony. But they took the vote away from people that were essentially unable to fight against that. Prisoners, if they had the vote, all of them, could help correct the system. They don't have a large enough voice, even if all 2 million prisoners voted. But being most prisoners are poor and uneducated, they probably wouldn't vote anyway, because like so many of the population of America who are poor and underprivileged, don't go vote.
Back to your poem here. If the building projects that much hopelessness, imagine how the people feel.
Yeah, and they do feel that way. There is hopelessness in prison. I know many, many, many men who will never get out of prison. Years ago, there were very few of those that would never get out of prison. Now, there are very few that ever will get out of prison.
I go in there 2-3 hours at a time, and it's just wipes me out. It just wipes me out, and you know.
Yeah, and then the prison, the
I'm
prison,
just a visitor.
the prison administration has a giant problem, Because years ago, when those prisoners had hope,
Yeah.
they had a measure of control over them. As each state throws away its parole system,
Yeah.
there is less measure of control. More guys are acting, especially the young guys that go in and don't go in the hard way and learn by hard labor and by other prisoners. There's too many people in there now.
Yeah,
Used to be you
definitely.
went into prison, you learned from the older prisoners how to respect each other,
Yeah.
and you could come out better.
Yeah.
But they don't have that anymore. Now the places are all crammed together. The young people coming in do not learn to respect. They act out their feelings. There's violence going on constantly. And it's getting to be a place. It used to be the safest place to work in the world was a prison guard.
Yeah, it's
Now it's becoming less safe.
yeah. I've seen old and young, and I thank you. We have run out of time. Thank you very much, and
I can go on for
we'll
hours.
keep that again. And thank you. Take care. Bye. See you next week. I think I got a signed up line. Good job.
You got me one.